card work like magic. In Las Vegas, Atlantic City, the Caribbean, Reno, Lake, even on cruise ships. Show your Players Club card and save on rooms. Show the card and save on shows. Save on shows. Save in coffee shops, delis, or gourmet restaurants.
We had a really great dinner. I showed them my Players Club card. They took $23 off my bill.
We went to the VIP window. The tickets were half off, and we went right in.
Players Club. Books, car rentals, hotel rooms, even airfares. All at tremendous discounts.
We like traveling to new and exciting places, and with the Players Club, we could afford it.
You, there's more to the good life than saving money.
We treat Players Club members as valued guests. We give them special VIP privileges that are not available to the general public.
We've used the card at Harrah's, at Sands, and resorts, and we've always had VIP treatment.
Players Club is a blockbuster idea, and over 50,000 members know it. Surprised? Don't be. It's a great deal. So, give us a call. Enjoy VIP treatment. Save money. There's no obligation, and the call is free. And how about 2 free room nights in Las Vegas or Atlantic City when you use our Super Saver airfares? That alone will more than cover the cost of your membership. For the most exciting times of your life, call Players Club now. Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
7 games on the NHL scoreboard tonight. In Buffalo, Mario Lemieux and the Penguins challenging the Sabres, a game that is getting dangerous on all fronts. Dave Anderchuk catches linesman Ron Finn in the face with his stick. Later in the second period, Ray Shepherd nailed by his own teammate Mike Foligno doing the job. Shepherd forced to leave the game. Pick it up, score tied at 2. Christian Ruutu gets his second goal of the game with a wrist shot past Wendell Young, and the Sabres grab a 3-2 lead. Incidentally, it's now 5-2 Buffalo. Coming from behind are the Sabres. It was Mario Lemieux's 4th goal that made it 1-0 for Pittsburgh early on. After that, it's been all Sabres, Stan.
A lot of people wondered about Christian Ruutu. He comes from Finland, and they thought it would take him a long time to adjust. What most people don't know is that he went to a private high school in Massachusetts, and his English is impeccable, and he's got a very good feel of the NHL, and obviously it's showing.
Okay, so Buffalo making a stand there. At Madison Square Garden, Hartford's looking for its first win of the season. Let's check out the action at the Garden. Second period, score tied at 2. Hartford on the power play. Sylvain Turgeon, the perfect pass to Kerry Wilson, who flicks it past Bob Froese. Whalers lead 3-2. Still second period, Ray Ferraro centers to Jody Hull. He scores. Whalers up 4-2. By the way, Jody not related to Bobby, though often he does put him in as frequently. Hull with a goal and an assist tonight. Ulf Dahlen has his 4th goal, and Hartford looking for that first victory up with 2 goals, Stan.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see whether Mike Liut can keep him in the game, keep him ahead. The interesting thing, you mentioned Sylvain Turgeon. His name has come up in trade talks, and you know the Rangers obviously going to make another blockbuster deal. I wouldn't be surprised if Hartford gets beaten tonight that Sylvain Turgeon winds up with the Rangers.
The Rangers have to come up with something to come back in that one. St. Louis on the ice at Toronto, a Norris Division rivalry. We'll check the score, 2-2 at the end of 2. Toronto and St. Louis fighting for first place in that division. Winnipeg skating in Chicago tonight with the Blackhawks under Mike Keenan lead 4-1 at the end of the first period there. Vancouver and Edmonton will get started in about 15 minutes. The Oilers have scored 10 goals in 2 games. Vancouver will try to slow them down. And at 10:30 from Los Angeles, the second game of our doubleheader, Wayne Gretzky leads the undefeated Kings against the unbeaten Boston Bruins. Should be interesting. Now, last night, Washington gave up 8 goals at Pittsburgh. Today, Capitals acquired defenseman Kent Carlson for future considerations, and they signed free agent goalie Doug Keens to a tryout contract. Well, it's winner take all, Game 7 of the National League Championship Series. Mets and Dodgers at Chavez Ravine. Look at this. The Dodgers are hammering the Mets early on. It is 6-0. Bottom of the second inning. The Mets are, of course, known for making comebacks, but the Dodgers trying to dig a hole too deep for New York to climb out of. We'll take a break, then Stan has a closer look at the second period at the Forum after this.
Sable is a Mercury, so naturally it's comfortable. Comfortable even in the corners. Comfort and control together in one car. Isn't it time you looked into a Mercury where comfort and control are one?
Ask every American the meaning of success, and you won't hear the same answer twice. Whatever your idea of succeeding, Citicorp and Citibank can help. With Citibank MasterCard and Visa cards, Citicorp Savings, Diners Club, and Citicorp Mortgage. We also serve millions of customers in every major marketplace worldwide. Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive.
Buy 15 rolls of any Owens Corning pink insulation now and get your favorite NFL team jacket free.
"20 years ago, leukemia took the lives of enough people to fill a ballpark. But today, thanks to research by the Leukemia Society, more and more people are surviving. The Leukemia Society of America, we're closing in on a killer."
In the highlights from Buffalo moments ago, we saw some high sticks stand. We're seeing them at the Forum as well.
Well, the high stick epidemic obviously is not limited to the Buffalo game. We saw it in the second period at the Forum in Montreal, and the victim was Gaetan Duchesne. It seemed to be an innocent flurry. Take a look at the play now. It doesn't happen here. It's sort of toward the left of the screen. There he goes. He gets it in the face from Ryan Walter. Now, what's surprising about this is that Walter only got a 2-minute penalty, and I thought that Andy Van Helmen definitely should have called a 5-minute major. Nevertheless, on the ensuing power play, the Nordiques did score, so they got something out of it.
Well, they got something out of it. Quebec, throughout this game, has just not been able to build a big enough lead. 6-5, the score now after 2.
I think they need about a 5-goal cushion to feel comfortable with about a minute to go, but the Canadians kept hammering away, and late in the period, they were just all over Bob Mason. This time, the shot went wide, but the Nordiques just can't seem to get good control of the puck, and the Canadians kept pressing. Eventually, they did get that 5th goal. It was a 6-4 lead for Quebec, and finally the Canadians came back and made it 6-5. So this is going to be right down to the wire.
Now, the score does not indicate sharp goaltending, but I think Mason's doing a good job. He's just not getting a lot of help.
He's doing a good job, but I think it was accurately pointed out by Bill Clement that he gives a lot of rebounds. And on top of that, he is very weak at fielding the puck in the corners, unlike a Ron Hextall or a Kelly Rudy or a John Van Beesbrook. And that makes him very vulnerable. So while he may be technically a good goaltender, the rebounds and the poor clearing of the puck in the corners makes him just average.
Well, the Canadiens certainly have been getting their chances. They've made it a 1-goal game. We're going to switch back to Montreal for period 3 after this.
All-Star Dodge, Maryland's #1 Dodge retail dealer, celebrates the opening of our 12th dealership with a grand opening sell-a-thon. All-Star will sell over 15,000 vehicles this year, and you need just $99 down, cash or trade, on this '89 Dodge Caravan, and just $203 a month. On this Dodge Omni, you pay just $138 a month at All-Star. $99 down, cash or trade, and just about everybody's credit is good at All-Star Dodge.
This fall, the Redskins are back on Home Team Sports. Tune in on Mondays at 6 o'clock for Redskins Magazine with Bob Rodwell, Tony McGee, and special guests. Then at 7:30, it's Home Team Sports Beat, Redskin Report. Stan White and Bobby Mitchell take phone calls and review that week's action. And on Thursday nights, it's Dexter Manley's Redskins Review. Most shows are live, all are exclusive, on the channel you cheer for, Home Team Sports.
Direct from Seoul, Korea, the Olympic teams from Canada, Germany, Great Britain, and the United States will saddle up for the 30th Annual Washington International Horse Show at the Capitol Center October 23rd through 30th. Don't miss the high-stakes action as the world's strongest horses and riders challenge the famed Busan's Wall on Saturday the 29th. And catch a glimpse of those feisty Jack Russell Terriers and the first-ever Clydesdale and miniature horse duo. Don't stall. Call now for tickets. 432-0200.
6-5, the advantage for Quebec at the Forum in Montreal. Let's go back to join Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement. Gentlemen?
Well, early in the second, Bobby Smith scored to tie this game at 4. To double check there. Was that the tie at 4 or the tie at 5 or what? But we've had goals coming fast and furiously here tonight. But then power play, and then Peter Stastny and Quebec ahead.
Now, this was the goal that Quebec was able to thread right through the Montreal penalty-killing box. Peter Stastny ends up scoring the goal. Now, penalty killers want to avoid this pass through any seam. You know why? Because it catches them by surprise. People can sneak in behind them. You know who was the most surprised on this? Watch the goalie when he comes into view, Brian Hayward. See how far out of the net he is? That shows you how he is counting on the penalty killers not to let the attackers penetrate the box with a pass through any of the seams. And that time they left too big a hole right through the middle.
Our position here, and you can see the crowd over the back of us, about 60 feet above the ice and right at center ice. Scotty Bowman, when he coached the Canadiens, used to come up here and hide during practices, and if he didn't hear the players talking to one another during the practices, he'd fine them and give it to charity. Maybe that fine should be imposed.
I never did like sneaky coaches that snuck around in the gondola. We're going to show you another goal. This was the one that was a complete breakdown by Montreal. Again, watch Hayward. Watch the goalie when he comes into view here. We had missed this the first time. See his hand coming down? It had been in the air. If Chelios or Ludwig touches this puck, it's an icing call. That's all they had to do was make contact with it, not clear it out of the way. Instead, they played, I got it, you get it, and there you saw the goal by Walt Podubny with an assist by Gaetan Duchesne. See Hayward there with his arm in the air? Well, at this point, he has to say, wait a minute, I got a problem here. My arm comes down, I got to try and make the save. Complete lack of communication.
Got a talk out there, and I know that when Matt Snaslin brought the Canadiens back to within one, there was something in particular that I know that you harped on and you wanted to point out at the very top as a flaw.
Well, when you watch replays for a second or third time, you see things you don't the first time. I talked about Robert Picard leaving his feet in front of the net, and we'll see that. But when you take a look at this goal by Matt Snaslin, right at the very beginning, take a look at who was on his knees right behind the net. See on the right? That's Curtis Lasician. Now, he will get up here and watch where he goes. Instead of cutting right out in front of the net, 46 for the Nordiques goes behind the net. You see him? That gives Bobby Smith the extra time to keep hammering away and keep the play alive. That's why Matt Snaslin had the puck to get, because Lasician decided to go behind and chase that man that has the puck now, 22, Charbonneau, as he went behind. See behind the net, Lasician? Keep in mind he's only 19 years old, and he has had an outstanding hockey game, but these are the things that he has to compute game by game as things that he did incorrectly that he will never do incorrectly again. And he's just a kid, and he will learn very, very quickly. Very impressed with him.
Bill and I commissioned a jury to huddle between periods and determine who has the ebb and flow control in this game. They haven't come back. As a matter of fact, I think they just ordered sandwiches, so we aren't going to get an answer right away.
I think if Quebec can come out and get in position for a quick field goal, they can really, really hold off in the third period.
We'll be back with the start of that third period, and who knows what can happen here at the Forum during this Battle of Quebec.
Hold on. So, did you check out any other 4x4s before getting another one of these? Sure. There were some a little cheaper. So how come you stuck with Toyota? Well, my old one never let me down. How many things can you say that about? Yeah, but if you could have saved a few bucks, why take chances? What chances? You got any idea how far it is back to town?
Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more?
The mood is gotten the moment you're on. Abandon yourself to the feel. So comfortable, easy, calm. Embrace the feeling. Take comfort in cotton. Find the True Performance label on the Lord Jeff All Cotton Better Sweater.
Hi, I'm Mark Messier of the Edmonton Oilers, with reason number 11 to watch NHL hockey. Good hard checking. Get the action reaction. Watch NHL hockey.
About to start the third period, Quebec ahead of the Canadiens 6-5. Bobby Smith with a pair of goals in the game tonight, and Walt Podubny of the Quebec Nordiques with a couple as well. Bobby Smith and Podupny will face it off to start the third. Naslund on the left wing for Montreal, Charbonneau on the right, Yarvey the right winger for Quebec, and on the left it's Duchesne. Larry Robinson just spins it right on the money to Bobby Smith. Across it comes to Charbonneau, watched there by Finn. Charbonneau peeling behind the net. Out in front, and that one went off Mason. And we get a stoppage of play as the net dislodged.
Boy, Mason had to make a good save only because Charbonneau kept going and going. Hardly ever in the NHL do you beat a defenseman going wide, but that time Charbonneau was able to get all the way around, out in front of the net. You could see the result of having beat the defenseman deep in the Quebec corner. He was able to come right around in front of Bob Mason, and just because of Mason's style, that butterfly style with his toes kind of spread to the side, he was able to catch the long shot to the far side.
Smith is steering Naslund to come around to the near side. You see 26 and 22 Charbonneau. So it appears it'll be a backhand win if he can accomplish it to Larry Robinson. Just out of your camera range. But it comes instead to Svoboda for a shot that ricocheted wide. Tapped away by Mason. Naslund in. Flicked one toward the net that popped back over to Steve Finn. Finn of the Quebec defense wound it, but Robinson took it, cleared it into Duchesne, and so the Canadians must drop back. And further now as Svoboda is chased by Yarvey. Drops it off to Robinson. Forechecking is Podupny, but the play made to Naslund. Mats Naslund just plays the long one, and Svoboda, did he get there first? Yes, he did, so icing is waved off. Yarvey moving with it. Forehands for Podupny. Checked, though, by Charbonneau, and it's drilled right back into the Quebec end. 5 players making a change for Montreal. On with this now is Robert Picard, his team changing as well, and so he just drops it in deep. Chris Chelios of the Montreal defense. In case you're just joining us, the score of the game, at one point, Quebec 4 and Montreal 1. The Canadians tied it. The Nordiques got 2, and the Canadians brought themselves back to within 1 on a goal by Mats Naslund with just over 5.5 minutes to go in the second. Here is a stop attempt by Gartner, held off by Mason, and the net dislodged by that rugby scrum of players. 18:32 to go in this third period of play. We'll be right back.
Being a Mercury, Topaz not only knows how to hold people, but also how to hold the road. It's a car that unites comfort and control. Picture yourself in a Mercury, where comfort and control are one.
Shane Corson is out. Pat Burns has him at center to try and win this faceoff. That's all it would take for Montreal is one pull back to Chris Chelios right now. 24 is back in the point. He's the big trigger guy for Montreal, so that's the guy Corson will go to. Doesn't get it this time.
In this tight game, it'll be interesting to see how much contact there is and penalties called in this third period. 2 power play goals tonight for Quebec. Montreal with 1. And this is a Canadiens team that had power play success, or lack of it, as its bugaboo in the playoffs last year. 0 for 42 against Boston and out. Gillis rattles one off the glass that is taken by Chelios. Spun to the front. Recovering is McPhee. Set it up for Corson, and Corson is able to get it. Corson able to drop one off. Richer moving after it. Brown tried to lift it away, and Anton Stastny sent it the rest. Sporadic sort of play, isn't it something? Overskated action back in the Quebec end, and finally out of frustration the Nordiques are icing it, and so back near Mason it will come.
You know, there used to be a time when teams would come into the Montreal Forum to visit the Canadiens, and their coaches would forbid them from watching the morning skate. That's how intimidating it used to be to come in here and watch these guys in their morning skates. Not only would they go 1,000 miles an hour, Lafleur, Jacques Lemaire, Yvan Cournoyer, but they would shoot high and accurately with the cannon-like shots, the great speed going. You come in here in the morning and you'd say, man, we got to play these guys tonight. They really had speed and really had offensive push. So rather than undress the opposition psychologically, a lot of the opposing coaches would say, hey, listen, guys, don't hang around watching these people. Let's just get into our room and concentrate.
Center ice scoreboard is flashing the letters B-R-U-I-T. Mr. Clement, translation.
Bruit, meaning noise in English. So it wasn't without Q.
Lecision with a pass on for Duchesne. Green having trouble, and Jeff Jackson trying to work in. Hayward scoops it around. Meyerjean shoved off by Charbonneau, and Gillis a drive, answered by Hayward. It's dealt up to Bobby Smith, then to Mats Naslund. Naslund trying to turn in, but Randy Moeller said no. Leaned on by Jackson. Puck knocked down to Moeller, tried to scoop it ahead to Jackson, but he's hit by Naslund. Charbonneau on now to Smith. Taps one for Charbonneau. Gillis steps right into him. Moeller winds it around for Jackson, but instead it's Green hacking it back. Charbonneau was in the zone, and so we have an offside call. 3 minutes and a second gone here in the third, and the score remains Quebec 6 and the Canadiens 5. Game 1 of 8 games played this year between the Nordiques and the Montreal Canadiens, and it's been a strange one. One goal scored on a long clear in off a glass support, another when the Canadiens had just a lack of communication on what was going to be an icing play, and it was tucked in by the Nordiques' Walt Podubny. 6-5 Quebec ahead. Richer couldn't get by Jeff Brown. Vermette across to Duchesne, off the referee's skates to Vermette. For Peter Stastny, but Larry Robinson is there. Scoops it back over to Svoboda. Peter Svoboda bringing it ahead. That one went into Brown and then skids right in on Mason. Jeff Brown of the Quebec defense just sent one too far, but this gives the Nordiques a chance to make a player change. Robert Picard comes out on defense for Quebec. Forechecking is Jackson, and he can keep play heated up back in the Montreal end. Walt Podubny dribbled one in front. Skrudland able to cut it off. And Brian Skrudland, with second effort, will pop it back to neutral ice. Picard across to Lecision. Hayward to the boards. Robinson to take it. Along to Bob Gainey. Gainey's pass is crisply over to Mike Keane. Keane duels with Picard, and help comes from Lecision. Rookie defenseman for Quebec, Curtis Lecision, sees the play develop now to Walt Podubny. Mike Keane chopped that by Podubny. Puck freed, but to Craig Ludwig. Chelios connects with Keane. Lays it off for Charbonneau. Steps in with Ryan Walder and gives to him. Walder, while falling, sent one wide. Anton Stastny bumped with Keane, and the puck taken and thrown back down by Sakic. Icing touch up by Ludwig. 15:09 left in the third with the score, Quebec 6 and Montreal 5. Let's pause for a regional break. You're watching the NHL on Sports Channel.
The Capitals clash with the Toronto Maple Leafs for the first time this year as Capitals hockey returns to home team sports. Don't miss one of your first chances to see the 88-89 Caps live Friday, October 14th at 8 o'clock, only on the home of the Capitals, Home Team Sports.
In bilingual Montreal, now the scoreboard flashes the letters N-O-I-S-E, but no response. It is Moeller with a pass that sailed by Peter Stastny. Anton Stastny flipped one that is handled by Charbonneau. Charbonneau again forces the Nordiques back. Moeller and Finn, the defense, play catch with it, and a one-handed tap by Finn gets it to Sakic. Then to Peter Stastny, along to Randy Moeller. Moeller with a drive, and that answered by Hayward. Sakic tries to penetrate but can't. Here's Peter Stastny, finessing in front. Oh, and it's loose and poked away by Charbonneau. What moves by Peter Stastny, but not successful in forcing it by. Moeller on over to Finn. And we get a stoppage of play. Should have been for, two-line pass. No, all the way down they have the net dislodged on that play that occurred involving Peter Stastny.
Well, there's Chelios having the puck stripped away from him again by Peter Stastny. And you were right, Mike. He dipsy-doodled around Craig Ludwig, and his brother Anton just about got the rebound. Anton Stastny. We had mentioned earlier that Claude Lemieux is not in uniform for Montreal. He's the most notable absentee in Montreal's side of the ice in their locker room, but we haven't mentioned, at least in my recollection, we haven't, Mike, that Michel Goulet, Quebec's perennial 50-goal scorer, is also not in the lineup tonight. He is out for 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury, a ligament injury to his left knee, very similar to the one that Steve Yzerman suffered last hockey season near the end of the year. So 6 to 8 weeks, these guys will have to go without their most prolific winger scorer. That is Michel Goulet. So the fact that they've come in here tonight and scored 6 goals, at least for tonight, appears as if they've closed the gap and picked up the slack.
That they have. Smith on this face-off with Paul Gillis, and coming to get it is Picard. Slides it over to Brown. Naslund, Carbonneau, and Smith, the line out now for Pat Burns' Montreal Canadiens. Green knocked it down, but Jackson forced it further. So it is Desjardins, the rookie defenseman. That one sent by Charbonneau, but it'll be Brown going back, getting some help from his goaltender Mason. Brown wraps one around. It is cleared by Bayerjean. Not out, and a shot to the front. Rebound, Bobby Smith scooped it wide. And the puck wound up underneath Smith, so they scurry to try to play it. Still, Smith able to work it over to Naslund. Pumped it back for Smith, but instead it is Gillis. Along now for Jeff Jackson. 3-on-3. Canadians had 3 men back, and so not giving any ground. The Nordiques just wanted to tap it in and get a shift change, but now Mats Naslund with a very soft pass from Green, giving the Nordiques a chance to burrow in again. Podubny trying to chop it free. It comes over to Smith. Then Mats Naslund. And this time the Canadiens will make a change. Clock ticks down to 13:10 left in the third. Quebec leading in the game by a count of 6-5. Peter Svoboda sliding it across to Robinson. Crisply on now to Richer. Richer has Corson on his left, but unwinds himself wide. Podubny glassing it and Robinson giving chase. Gaetan Duchesne, the forechecker. Off of Svoboda and out of play. With the score, Quebec 6, Montreal 5. Let's pause for a regional break. You're watching the NHL on Sports Channel.
Caps meet the New Jersey Devils for the first time since bowing out of last year's Stanley Cup playoffs. Catch the rematch Saturday night at 7:30, right here on the home of the Capitals, Home Team Sports.
Well, if you're wondering where Claude Lemieux is, we told you he's not in uniform. Oh, that's not Claude, is. I'm sorry, Claude.
Leading his cavalry charge from the seats is one fan, and he gets about as much reaction as the organist as Anton Stastny. Muscled behind by Corson. Trying to step loose with it and able to do it now and wind it back around was Cote. Anton Stastny can't get away from the checking of Svoboda, but help comes from Sakic. Joe Sakic. Watched by Corson, spun one that Picard will have to pinch to play. Took the hit from McPhee, but could not control. Alain Cote drives it back in with 12 minutes and 12 seconds to go in this third period. The score has been unchanged since 6 minutes were remaining roughly in the second period. Corson a shot, and that off Brown and went wide. Rebound. Oh, and they tried to thread it to the front, but Lecision was in the way. Lecision crunches with Richer. The puck along to Anton Stastny. Connects with Brown. Brown just plops one in, and has happened so often from the latter stages of the second on into the third. The teams are changing on the fly as we have the stick going up high and a delayed penalty call coming up to Quebec. Hayward heading to the bench. Hopping over the boards is Carbonneau. They have 6 attackers going on this delayed call. Carbonneau left one that'll be handled by Mason, and we get the stoppage of play. Power play coming up to Montreal when we return.
The 1988 Toyota Celica. Its powerful 16-valve, 135-horsepower engine propels you to the limit, while you glory in Celica's sleek, aerodynamic shape. The 1988 Toyota Celica. The power and the glory. Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more?
It happened just about 200 feet from Bob Mason, but Dave Latta hooked down Chris Chelios deep in the Montreal zone, so it was a penalty so far from Bob Mason that you have to know Ron LaPointe is saying, no, you don't need to pull anybody down unless it's going to cost us a goal in our end. There was the hook. Chelios exaggerated it, made it look good, as he should have. Andy Van Hellemond calls it. Here's their chance, 11:31 to go. Montreal tonight in the power play, 1-4-5. Mike, you mentioned their dismal display in the playoffs last year. In the regular season last year, they finished 20th overall on their power play. Their penalty killing was 3rd, so that tells you that this team revolves around defense, not offense.
Coming into tonight's game, they were 3 for 17. That's a little less than 20%, and that really isn't that good. This is power play number 6 for Montreal tonight. As Bill mentioned, 1 for the previous 5. Bobby Smith curls. Has Naslund nearby. You see him 26. Smith just holding. Charbonneau at the front, and now Naslund has moved there. Smith with a pass, tipped away by Jackson. Smith to recover. On the lean of Finn, the puck hooked away, and it came right to Sakic. Hands to Randy Moeller. Drops one in, and Jackson churning back, so Hayward has to make a play, and Jackson stepped in too firmly by Desjardins. Still, the two of them battle for it, and Naslund has to come by to help. Meanwhile, time goes off the big scoreboard clock, and the penalty clock shows now just 1:05 on this power play. Naslund nicely handled that time by Yarvi so that the Nordiques could clear. Desjardins for Montreal. Looks toward Chelios, but will start to carry. 10:20 left in the third as Desjardins spins one by Brown. Set up for Brown by Mason, and Mason wrapped one off a glass support, but this time a Nordique bounce, and Cote clears. Fed away by Hayward to Chelios. Penalty-killing team has made a change now for Quebec. Podubny and Duchesne are among those out. Puck dropped again wide of Mason. Set up for Moeller, overskated, and so Mason foists it away. Chelios to get it.
Quebec has a problem. There's Lecition without his stick.
Good point as Corson turns it over to Richer. Back to Svoboda. Over to Chelios. Hammers one, and that blocked away. And Podubny, who had given his stick up, is able to glove it back along. Svoboda takes over for Montreal and starts right back with 4 seconds to go on the power play. Puck tapped away by Peter Stastny. Corson hits the ice, and it is turned along to McPhee. The teams are back at full strength. Latta trying to handle it, and he and Corson cancel one another. Now Miller guides it back over to Finn. Sent further by Duchesne. Robinson sidesteps a man and controls now. Clock down to 9 minutes and 10 seconds left in this third period. Svoboda along for Corson, chopped at by Moeller. Moeller of the Quebec defense sees it scoot by, and Keane hit hard by Bayerjean. Still the battle continues. Peter Stastny is there, but it squips to Moeller. Back along to Peter Stastny, who left it behind. Puck chopped out of the stick knocked out of the hands of Bayerjean. Puck over to Corson, but because of the chink on Bayerjean, there'll be a penalty coming up to Montreal.
Man, I'm having trouble keeping track of whose stick is whose out there. There are 2 on the ice right now. There were 2 earlier. To wait and see who picks up what. 8:51 to go in the third period. Quebec still ahead by 1. We'll be back.
When you move with Ryder, think of the unpacking as practice. Because only Ryder will enroll you in one of the country's biggest discount shopping services, absolutely free. Which means you can buy almost anything for your new home at some of the best prices around. So after you unpack, you can unwind. Move yourself with Ryder and settle in with the savings. Ryder, we're there at every turn.
Well, Well, in the midst of all of the wood and rubble on the ice, Mike Keane has been whistled off by Andy Van Helleman. You hear the call flashing, so Quebec now goes on the power play.
Nordiques are 2 for the previous 4. And they'll use the 2 Stastnys and Walt Podubny. Brown and Sakic as the point men. So as it turned out, Podubny was out just before that penalty was called, so he'll remain out on this power play. Oftentimes teams don't get the break. They have someone pretty well winded by the time a penalty is called, and they can't really come with their best right off. But the Nordiques can here. Anton Stastny back to Brown, returns it to Anton Stastny, has Peter between the hash marks, gives to Sakic. Then over to Brown. Anton Stastny. Brown once more, watched closely by Gainey. Anton Stastny will have to chase, meets up with Green, puck comes to Podubny. Podubny, crisp pass to Brown, drive, and that ricocheted to Carbonell, rebound! Oh, and trying for the top shelf was Sakic. Canadiens able to clear. 1 minute, 10 seconds to go on the power play. Misfire here, Anton Stastny moves right in. Ludwig there, and the Canadiens touch, and the Nordiques are guilty of icing while on the power play. So back near Mason, it'll be Broad. Yeah, it's a solid crowd. The lower left, you see Brian O'Neill, Executive Vice President of the NHL. NHL with offices here in Montreal as well as New York and Toronto. And it is Skrudland who will be charged with taking this face-off for the shorthanded Canadiens, McPhee, and in back, Green and Ludwig. Joe Sakic has seen a lot of ice time, and first-round picks oftentimes don't get a lot at the beginning of the season, but he has been out there and busy tonight. Steve Finn, a defenseman, chats with Sakic, who moves in for this draw. Canadiens have Ludwig and Green ready to blaze their best, and here's Ludwig with a shot. It went just wide and over the glove of Mason. Gaetan Duchesne connects with Randy Moeller. 50 seconds to go on the power play. Sakic wrapped up by Skrudland, shovels it to Järvi. Järvi hands right back over to Moeller. Moeller taking a look, but hands to Järvi, then back to Sakic. Fires one that's deflected to the seats by Skrudland. So with 41 seconds of power play time to go, at the point Skrudland deflected it is where they'll put it back in play. And boy, do those guys help out the goaltender when they're right on the shooter.
Sakic had the right idea that time, Mike. He had a man in front. He just took a little too long to get it away. And that is one of the few plays that Sakic hasn't been able to execute tonight. I was told that I would be impressed by 88 of the Quebec Nordiques. 19-year-old Joe Sakic, boy, he has met every expectation that I have had. And, when I was trying to size up the Adams division when this hockey season started, I really felt that Quebec would fall off the face of the earth, that they wouldn't be able to keep up with the Montreals and with Boston in the Adams division. But with Sakic and Lesishin, along with their acquisition of Bob Mason, I can't get over how competitive they are. They have two 19-year-olds, it's Sakic and Lesishin, that have taken more than a regular shift tonight because they've played all the specialty teams. They look like seasoned veterans already.
Well, they do, and even though you don't put stock in early performance maybe by a team, when the season is 26 weeks long and we're just now at the end of the first complete week, it's a confidence builder for the team and for those youngsters, for this club in Quebec to have a 2-1 record, headed toward 3-1 if they can keep control of this one. High stick seemed to fell Jeff Brown for a moment. Puck lifted out of play, and once more we have a halt to the action. Not sure where he caught that. I thought it was a stick, but
he might have hit his hip. You know, he was hit sort of in the hip area, and his whole body went up in the air, and he came down really hard on his side. He has the face shield, at least Brown does. So does Carbonell, that guy you were just looking at.
One of the rare arenas in hockey where you can sit right next to the bench. That man was not right at the bench, but that ticket is available. Right next to the Quebec bench, there is a row of seats, and you can be elbow to elbow with a backup goaltender.
You can sit there and
Smell the sweat. Oh, and Lecision nearly broke in. Still, the Nordiques have it. Teams are at even strength right now. 6-5, Quebec ahead. 6:40 to go, third period here from the Forum in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Along with Bill Clement, Mike Emmerich, you're watching hockey on Sports Channel. Later on tonight, another game. The Boston Bruins and the Los Angeles Kings. Here is Bobby Smith. Drops it back for Svoboda. Then over to Smith. Stepped into by Lecision. Jackson turned it into Naslund. And Matt Naslund doing some fancy skating. Lost it, but got it back. Turns it over to Carbonneau. Carbonneau points it back to Chelios for a drive, and that went off Vermette, who's hurt. Gillis able to punch it back out, and Vermette can come to the bench. 6 minutes to go. Charbonneau stepped into by Picard, and the play went offside. Just in flurries we see action here. Not really sustained end-to-end sort of play, but just occasionally all of a sudden there's a turnover or a misplay and a chance.
Well, Quebec now is really trying to keep the tempo pretty choppy. They're the guys that have the one-goal lead, so anytime they get the center, they're dumping it in. They're not trying to make any extra passes or any fancy plays, and that really chops it up. If a team stops really trying to concentrate on offense, that really takes a lot of the end-to-end action out of the game, and you got Quebec kind of in a prevent-defense situation here.
No major penalties in this game tonight. Few confrontations, but that's been about it. If you missed it earlier in the game, missed communication by the Canadians, this was going to be icing. Duchesne had one try, but Dubney had the one that went in. That made it a 6-4 game. It is 6-5 now, and what an odd winning goal that would turn out to be if the score remains the same. Larry Robinson keeps it, but it is given up to Yarvey. Nice little pass on to Podubny, crosses with Duchesne. Hayward just swats this one away. Duchesne wedged by Robinson, who kicked it away. Gaetan Duchesne sat down with the puck underneath. Kicked it along to Podubny, and Walt Podubny now nudges it along the boards. Jammed from him by Smith. Yarvey able to tap it back, but Robinson puts one right in front of his own net over to Desjardins. Then back along to Larry Robinson. Clock the enemy of the Canadians right now, and it shows 5 minutes and 15 seconds to go in regulation time. This is Finn lifting it back out. As Bill mentioned, carefully played right now by the Nordiques. They're the ones with the lead. Naslund can't penetrate at the line. Bobby Smith gets help from Larry Robinson. Back along to Smith. Flipped onto Naslund. Richer trying to get loose, but Naslund, because of Randy Moeller's checking, can't even begin to think pass. Desjardins spun one to the front, blocked away by Finn. Now it's Smith centering one, directed away, and it's Cote starting back for Quebec. Has Anton Stastny on the wing, but wants to play this one conservatively. Anton Stastny tried to one-hand it. It's off Sakic, and now Cote will try to chop from Richer. Stéphane Richer for Montreal. Able to get some room, but not the puck, and Sakic plays it back to Lecision. 4:25 to go in the third. Still they work for it, and Richer was able to knock it away, but not center. Puck caroms to Anton Stastny. Starts it back up to Sakic. It is Rick Green, then to Ludwig, and once more to Green. Another Canadians change, and it is Sakic having the stick lifted out of his hands by Mike McPhee, who takes over. On to Mike Keane. Pursued from behind by Peter Stastny as Lecision goes back. Right after him, Corson. Oh, what a high, hard hit on Lecision by Shane Corson. Ludwig drops one in. Keane still in the zone, so some time will be lost while the Canadians regroup. Nordiques able to fling it back out. It's getting ugly now. Corson really throwing his weight around. This time he put a check on Brown. 3:35 left in the third. Rick Green flipped one by the eye of Moeller. And it is Picard. Bumped off by Keane. Cote hit hard. Loose puck taken by Strudlin. And Walter tries to knock one home. And it's buried by Randy Moeller. Peter Stastny starts ahead for Quebec. Beats it up the wing. Cote, a drive save made by Hayward. And the rebound shaft wide. Keane starts it back for Montreal. And we're opening it up a little bit. 3:10 left in the third. 6-5 in favor of Quebec. Strudlin centers one. Keane unable to control. Still they battle for it. It's pumped away from him by Picard. Moeller back, but Strudlin there as well. Brian Strudlin able to take it. Couldn't get a centering pass away. Just enough of A jab of the stick by Moeller to keep him from doing it. Puck winds up underneath the fallen Nordique, and the clock frozen with 2:48 to go in this third period. Coming up later on, the Boston Bruins and the Los Angeles Kings. You won't have to wait too long. Oh, we may have overtime to deal with here. Who knows? 6-5, Quebec leading with 2:48 left in period 3, and you're enjoying it all tonight on Sports Channel. Critical at this point. And the coaches try to plot out who they can have out for these last 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 shifts. They got the biggies out now for Montreal, or at least a couple of them, and Naslund on the left wing, and Bobby Smith at center, Charbonneau on the right side, Svoboda and Chelios in back. Gillis, Yarvey, Duchesne up front for Quebec. In back, Finn and Brown. The dump and chase is on, and off the rail it hops to Brown. After him is Charbonneau. Puck lifted further, but not out. We get a stoppage of play, and a hand pass ruled against Montreal, bringing the face-off outside with 2:37 left in the third. Just been playing some roulette on the old punch board of the cable system and saw hockey. Well, let's recap. 4-1 Quebec in the first, then Montreal answered with a couple late in the first to make it 4-3, tied the game in the second. The Nordiques got 2 to make it 6-4 in the second. Mats Naslund brought the Canadiens back to within 1, and for the last 22 minutes, remarkably, there has been no scoring. Gerard Gauthier, the veteran linesman in the NHL, doing a little ice repair. Bobby Smith, who has a couple in this game tonight. Both of them tap-ins from the right of the goal, hoping for still a third that can force this game into overtime. It is Svoboda for Montreal, handing over to Chelios. Along to Charbonneau. Watched by Finn. Tripped on Finn's stick, and Brown goes back to play. Charbonneau trying to follow up, gets it to Chelios. Feeds it back for Svoboda. Dumps it for Smith. Eyed up by Brown, and that one ricocheted off Finn. Naslund to control for the Canadiens. Angles one for Charbonneau, but it reaches Smith. Sets it up for Charbonneau. Couldn't get a shot away. Jeff Brown on defense slowed it down so that Mason could hold. We just think in the third period, just a little action by defensemen. Brown in that case, Randy Moeller a couple times before, and that takes the steam off the shot.
Absolutely. Montreal, though, has really been pressing around Mason. When they get in deep, they've been able to do some work, and watch what Montreal's defensemen are doing now back on the point. They're pinching in at all times. It's going to be a great time for Quebec to get a break and get down to the other end, because now Montreal has to open it up. 2 minutes to go, and their defense can't afford to pull out now. They're going to have to gamble and stay in and try and maintain zone presence in Quebec zone. So something can happen for Quebec here in a positive sense, because Montreal now has to leave themselves open to all kinds of breaks for the Nordiques.
Now, they made a couple of changes up front, moving Richer with the right shot to the left wing. Corson will be the center, and McPhee the right winger. Chelios and Svoboda are the point men.
Montreal has been strong on the draws in Quebec zone all night.
Do they win this one? It eventually comes to Cote, but he can't clear out. Little flick by McPhee, and McPhee will try once more, but this time prevailing is Duchesne. Svoboda back to get it for the Canadiens on the turning stick of McPhee with 1:45 to go in regulation time. As we get closer to the minute mark, which seems to be the normal time for pulling goalies, we will eye the opposite end to Hayward. Meanwhile, Duchesne is able to send it more in that direction. Svoboda to go back for it. 32 shots Canadiens, 23 shots for Quebec. But Quebec ahead in the game, 6-5. Pass just too far for Corson, jabbed away by Finn. Sent further by Duchesne, and Sakic wheels to play, but can't. Sakic with good second effort, but the puck squibs over to Richer. 1:15 to go, and Hayward is chugging toward the bench. Corson wants to tap one along, and an offside is called. There'll be a face-off right near the Quebec line, and we cast a glance toward Hayward and see him gliding right back out to at least the blue line. Maybe he'll not even go as far as the crease, so that should the Canadians win, he can scamper off quickly.
Well, without question, a key offside there. Stéphane Richer touched the puck, and I don't know whether he could tell it was offside or not. But that really cost Montreal. Remember last night, Washington trying to get their goaltender out, Brian Murray trying to get Peters out of the net, never was able to until it was really too late. Now Brian Hayward, who was already at the bench because of this offside, has to come back, stand inside the blue line. He's about halfway now. You can see the empty net, but that doesn't mean Hayward has left the ice. He's halfway between the blue line and his net. Montreal has to get possession, get it in deep, and then take the precious seconds to try and get Hayward off. So that was a very costly offside for Montreal.
Charbonneau will be the man who will hop over the boards once Hayward gets within 5 feet of it. But Montreal has to control first, and so far they haven't. That one skipped by Naslund, and so again deep in the Canadian zone it goes with 1 minute to play. Regulation time. Puck tapped by Robinson for Smith. Walter, nice little toss to Naslund, and off comes Hayward for the extra man Charbonneau. Puck sent in deep. It is Robinson feeding one and handcuffed Naslund. Held by Desjardins. His drive is deflected to the boards. Bobby Smith wants to feed one in front, denied by Brown. Loose puck scooped up by Smith. Rolls it back for Desjardins. Then back on to Bobby Smith. 3 Canadians at the front. Watch tightly. Charbonneau can't get a centering pass away. Jeff Brown again towering on defense. Charbonneau scoops it back to Smith for a shot that's wide. 20 seconds to go regulation time, and the puck dumped back out. Yarby racing after it, and so is Smith. Meanwhile, he hit the post and back down the ice. We see Charbonneau is cut and bleeding. 10 seconds to go. All the way down, and is wrapped by the Canadians. If the Nordiques arrive in time, it's icing, and we have Charbonneau in an exchange with one of the Nordiques over at the Quebec bench.
Man, what a weird sequence. Charbonneau, obviously bleeding, was down on the ice, and he didn't stay there. He just got up and started skating towards his bench. That really took him out of the play. The play would have been to stay there and try and get a stoppage of play. But he skated in front of the Quebec bench, and he took a big lunge at Paul Gillis and hit him. He had to be going for the guy that hit him up high with a stick in the face.
Now, Gerard Gauthier, if Andy Van Hellemond didn't see it, is conversing with him right now and may have informed him as to what had happened.
Well, I think it's a moot point at this stage anyway. 7 seconds to go, unless he awards a penalty shot. Watch, right in the middle of your screen. That was Gillis. He just got the butt end right up into Charbonneau's face, and Andy Van Hellemond didn't see it.
Well. It used to be Perron and Bergeron. And the coaches are animatedly into this one, too.
Well, you know what Burns is complaining about, that Lapointe was egging on Bobby Smith, and that he's causing all the problem right now. There's Lapointe, and he was just having a nice, smiling conversation, sarcastically, obviously, with Bobby Smith.
And there's more. Richer now at center ice with Paul Gillis. Now, the Canadiens have 6 men on the ice. Quebec has 6 as well, plus their goaltender. So Quebec with an extra right now. Being sent to the penalty box is Paul Gillis, and now that evens things up.
See, Gillis was the guy they wanted to get to because they knew he was the one that hit Charbonneau up high. So it took 59 minutes and 53 seconds. But this is about as close as we've come to the all-out battle of Quebec. Remember me mentioning at the beginning of the game that Gillis was voted by the Adams Division players as the chippiest guy? Well, you can read a lot into that term, chippy. Dirty, he'll take a cheap shot at you. And he sure did that time on Jose Charbonneau.
Well, if Gerard Gauthier spotted what our cameras did and reported it to Andy Van Hellemond, this could be the major in the game, although, as Bill mentioned, 7 seconds to go.
Watching so many things, I'm not sure where the face-off is going to be. I don't think it's deep in the Quebec zone.
As I recall, Quebec was back for an icing touch-up, and it appeared to me they had outraced the Canadians to it. But with a Quebec penalty, the positioning of the face-off would be, if I recall the rule correctly, just outside the blue line. Quebec's blue line, which would give the Canadians a chance to maybe do something in 7 seconds. But we'll see. Seven more of these during the course of the season between these two squads, and it had been, as we've mentioned off and on, a rather calm and quiet one. Not on the scoreboard with 11 goals total between the two, but in terms of the all-out wars that we've seen in the past. A major is up on the board for Gillis, and that should do it for him on the night. Now, Randy Moeller has disappeared down the runway to the Quebec locker room. For what reason, we're not sure.
You know, the other implication of this thing is if Gillis gets a 5 for high sticking and drawing blood, that accompanies or is accompanied by a game misconduct. And while that won't mean anything right now, if he ends up with a couple of game misconducts, he ends up with a game suspension. Watch it again. It'll end up being right in the middle of your screen. Charbonneau has the puck, and as he turns around, he just takes it up high with trying to hear the penalty here. Possibly a butt end, but definitely a poke right in the face. Well, all of these French announcements concern misconducts to all the players that were pretty well on the ice.
So that explains the departure of Gillis. Probably there are other players who have gone away too. Concentrating on the ones on the ice right now, Peter Stastny and Corson conversing with Gauthier, who I think may have been the one now, judging from Quebec's reaction, that reported all of what we just saw to Andy Van Helleman. But the positioning of the face-off will be center ice, but near the Quebec blue line. Canadians will have to hurry. They trail by 1 with 7 seconds to go. Duchesne and Sakic, Brown and Finn. Canadians will have 6 attackers, outnumbering Quebec by 4, or rather by 2. Quebec going with the goalie in 4, Naslund, Chelios, Corson, Scrudland, Walter, and McPhee. Walter got one over for the angle in by Corson. Brown fanned on it. Loose puck out in front as the siren goes to end this first battle of Quebec. After so many goals early, there were none in the last 25 and a half minutes of this contest. After a lot of penalties early, except for the final 7 seconds, just a handful in the second and third period. Strange game, but Quebec goes off with the 2 points and a record of 3-1-0, tying them with Boston for first place in the Adams division. The final score, the Quebec Nordiques 6, the Montreal Canadiens 5. We'll be right back in just a moment.